Hi everybody, it's me, Mr. Crowther. Why am I a toy instead of a real person? Two reasons. One, I thought you might be tired of my face. And two, there's no better irony than when talking about Marxist critical film theory to use the playthings of a multi-billion-dollar multinational corporation to get my point across. So how does Marxism work? Marxist critical film theory, like a couple of the other theories we're going to be looking at, have to do with activism. The notion that by looking through a particular filter or a particular lens, we could raise awareness to the idea that society is arranged in a way that it shouldn't be. In film and in art, the idea is, does this represent the system, or is it fighting against the system successfully? Marxism at its core looks at the idea that the dominant socio-political system is based on economics, especially the most powerful economic system out there, capitalism. Capitalism would have everything organized in the form of a pyramid. Here, let's take a look at how that would look. I'm standing in the way of the drawing. Let's try that again. So, at the very top, you have your owners, your 1%. They're the ones who are in control and in command. The second tier, still a small group, are the rich. The middle group are the middle class. The very bottom are all the workers. In order for the system to work, the workers have to fight their way and earn money for all the other ones up above it. The key here is the fact that the owners and the rich are the ones who are in total control. According to Marxist theory, the idea is that if they're in total control, they're going to need to make sure that everybody on the bottom is perfectly happy, deluded, and a little bit distracted from the fact that they could outnumber and overpower the people who are at the top. From the perspective of this movie, you obviously have the character who in the credits is titled The Boss. You never meet him personally. He's the guy on the television talking about the way that women should and could be contributing to their society. Their value is completely based on their contribution as a family member, as the wife, as the mother, as the person who's running the whole show. He has posters and signs all over town, but you never ever see him and you never ever meet him. He is in control. He's in charge. The princess represents the rich. Keep in mind that Arash works as the gardener of the princess. The middle class, well, they seem to be missing from this film, so we're not really going to talk about them right now. But Mr. Crowther, what about all the other characters? Marxist theory deals with this very well. The notion is that if you don't fit into that pyramid, then you become marginalized. You are on the outskirts of society. Because capitalism is such a prevalent and predominant force, the idea is that the marginalized tend to organize themselves in their own form of pyramid. At the top you have the pimp, the top criminals, the ones who are in control and command. Then you have the workers. The prostitute fits into this category. She has to give her cut to the pimp, and she's making very little compared to him. Then you have the users, the junkie. He not only is taking advantage of the prostitute, he's taking advantage of the drugs as well. He is their main clientele. At the very bottom of the pyramid, you have the homeless. Those are so marginalized that they are even excluded from their own pyramid. So there you have it. The giant pyramid, and then the smaller pyramid of the marginalized. Almost all the characters fit into this mix. Marxist theory looks at the idea that capitalism is trying as hard as it can to establish that there are boundaries. You cannot move up the pyramid. The illusion, though, is that you can, so that there's a possibility that you, as a worker, could work really, really hard to become middle class. The middle class could work really, really, really hard and become rich. And the rich could work really hard and become the bosses. This hardly ever happens. It's an illusion, at least according to Marxist theory. The idea is that if we can keep you distracted, if we can keep you occupied, if we can give you the illusion, then you will never need to worry about moving up because it's not going to happen. How does that show up in this film? Think about Arash. He works for the princess. She calls him up. She toys with his affections. She invites him to the party, or does he crash it in the end? In the end, he gets made fun of. They refer to him as chic. They take advantage of him. So let's walk through this a little bit more closely. Here we have Arash. He's the worker. He lives in the periphery. We know that he's stolen, and we know that he seems comfortable with it. He's dealing with the fact that his father is an addict and that they owe a lot of money. In the very first scene, we meet the street urchin. The street urchin asks him for money. The urchin is also wearing a jacket, almost as if the urchin is a parody of the middle class. He's not. He is on the marginalized side like everyone else. Talking about his car, Arash speaks about it as if how many hours he dedicated in order to be able to earn it. This obsession with merchandise and the trappings of capitalism are what keep people focused. If you dedicate hours and hours and hours of working to buying something that makes you look like you're richer than others, then you have successfully participated in the capitalist illusion. Next, we meet Arash's father. He may have been a functioning member of society in the past, but now he's become marginalized as well. His drug use, his use of prostitutes, his need to be taken care of, and his buy-in of the idea that he absolutely needs something in order to survive, and only someone higher up in the pyramid could give it to him, means that he is a textbook case of somebody who has been victimized. Enter the pimp. The pimp, in a perversion of power, is at the top of the pyramid that's the marginalized side. He acts as a capitalist would if they were in charge of a company. He demands and talks of business as business. He takes the car. He insists that the father is a good customer. Why? Because he participates in drugs, he participates in women, and he gambles, as if those were the natural parts of what you would need to be at their level. Then we get the princess. She's in a balcony, looking down on Arash as he works. She never usually mentions his name, and she insists that she comes up so that he can help her fix her television set. Interesting that the boss and his TV program broadcasted clearly when he was talking to the marginalized, but the rich couldn't get that image because the television wasn't coming through. Kind of symbolic. The princess toys with him, flirts with him, and he, as best as he possibly can, tries to maintain some dignity. He also steals from her, takes the earrings. Let's investigate a little bit the relationship between the pimp and the prostitute Addie. Everything comes down to a business transaction. She wants her cut. He accuses her of not making enough money. She finds a way to be able to pay him back, and he insults her in terms of being too old to work. All of this as a parody of that capitalist ideal of the worker not being able to make what they deserve based on the amount of work that they've put in. The pimp and his apartment. Decadent, candelabras, fish tanks, every exaggerated and ridiculed version of a capitalist dream is in that apartment. He has his briefcase, he has his gun, he has his money, he has his drugs. Everything that's in that apartment comes down to the idea of showing that he is on top of that marginalized pyramid. So where does the girl fit into all of this? Think about it this way. If she has dedicated herself to getting rid of the marginalized, then perhaps, unwittingly, she's a tool of those that are on the top of the pyramid in an effort to try to get rid of everyone that is at the bottom or that doesn't fit into the pyramid. Think about who she kills. A homeless man, a drug addict, a pimp, who is a mockery of everything that capitalism is supposed to stand for. Maybe, just maybe, she happens to be a tool for the capitalist regime in order to be able to reinforce its values. All the while, she doesn't really know she's a part of it. She is, at its core, obsessed with all things pop culture, the disco ball, the earrings, her love of music, All of those elements, masked underneath a hijab to fit in culturally, shows that she is at home and underneath it all, a fan of capitalism. She is almost like their hitman. And then there's the exchange, a conversation, or is it really more of a business transaction between the girl and the prostitute Addie? The girl, although defending Addie by killing her pimp, has taken all of the pimp's jewels and given it to her almost as compensation. In the conversation in which the two of them are talking about why she does what she does, the girl mentions to Addie that she doesn't care about it anymore, that the work is not there anymore. The goal to travel, that ideal of wanting to see the world, all of it was an illusion. Now this sounds like it's supporting that Marxist ideal of trying to break that disillusionment, trying to break through the fantasy in an effort to be able to show Addie that her ways are leading nowhere. Even Addie herself says, only idiots and rich people think the world can change. So let's look at this another way. Let's imagine it comes down to this bag of coins represents power and money. Who has the power at the beginning of the story? The pimp. Saeed has all of the cash. He is collecting from the father Hossein, and he takes the car in exchange because he's not getting paid. Business is business, as he says. In comes the capitalist enforcer. She takes out the pimp, and this bag gets split two different ways. His jewelry goes to the prostitute. The car and the drugs and a suitcase full of money go to Arash. What does Arash do? He pretends to be the pimp. He sells drugs. He gets himself medical help. He does things with his money that he's able to do because he wasn't able to do it before. Unfortunately, he goes to the princess's party. He tries to fit in as an equal. I've got the bag of money. That means I'm just like you. No, she says. Not at all. You will never be like us. You think you will, but those walls between my world and yours are very strong and impossible to break through. They make fun of him. He has nothing left. He becomes disillusioned with that idea that that bag of money might have actually gotten him something. So what does he do with it? He gives it to his father as a means of getting him out of the house. You live on the margins of society. All you think you need is more money. Take it. Take the drugs. Take the money. What happens to him? The enforcer comes back. The enforcer kills the drug user. And now the bag of money is left. Who has it? Technically, she does. In the end, the girl and Arash drive away. He knows. He's upset at the fact that his father's been killed. He knows that she, ultimately, is an enforcer in some ways. They drive away from the city, presumably to start a new life with new rules and new ideas. But realistically speaking, if the person who has been enforcing capitalism's will this whole time is sitting in the car seat next to you, is your life really going to change? Are you really just kind of leaving one pyramid for another? This is the big boss. He's been there the whole time. He's at the top of the pyramid. The enforcer doesn't come near him. If the girl, as a vampire, was able to kill off every single one of the derelicts and the refuse and all of the people that are on the outskirts of that society, if they took out that entire marginalized triangle, he would be better off, because then all of the signs that his system is not working would be completely gone. He never gets affected. Okay, sure, there's this little tiny bag of money, but remember, he has all of that. He is in charge. Nobody comes near him. Not even the princess knows who he is. Every single person that affects or gets affected in this film is not doing anything necessarily to affect the boss's outcome. They're not driving away into the sunset in order to be able to kill the boss, or reverse the pyramid, or bring about change. They literally are just leaving one situation for another, assuming that things were going to change. So maybe they are the idiots that Addy were referring to. So that's Marxist critical theory in a nutshell. At its core, what you have is a story of the haves and the have-nots. The story comes from the haves. It may seem like a fairy tale. It may seem like things get reversed. It may seem like things are going to work out in the end. But ultimately, nothing's changed. The illusion's still there. The enforcer is still doing what the enforcer does, supporting that capitalist role, getting rid of those marginalized people, taking care of business so that the ones that are at the very top of the pyramid never have to get their hands dirty. And that is Marxist critical theory in a nutshell.